welcome to my channel. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for hitting that little like button. And today I'm going to be diving into more watch work. I got to complete the watch that I own first before I get to everyone else's, but fear not, I will get to everyone else's. So I've cleaned my own watch. If I cough, by the way, I apologize. I'll try to keep the audio off when that's happening, but I'm still fighting this darn cold. And yes, Mr. Ed Horn, I think it was an Illinois watch I was working on that you said is still running really smooth. So thank you very much for that email you sent me. This is the watch that I am working on, and it's my watch. My watch, my watch. And I took this downstairs and did my cleaning with it. So now I've got to empty the baskets and get that going. So it's there's a whole lot of watch here. So I'm going to, hopefully you can watch what I'm doing. I need to get on my other glasses though, because these ones here, they're fancy looking, but they're just drugstore glasses, and they do not give me any help when I'm doing watch work. So there. So I got some choices to make here in my watch channel. I know there's other folks that make the videos and spend, I think, a lot of time processing the videos, probably hours and hours to process a video, and I don't do that. It would take more time, but they get more views on their videos because they're processing videos, and audiences nowadays can only focus for 3 seconds. I was measuring 3 to 5 seconds, but largely 3 seconds, and I was watching a show, and I was seeing how many times they flipped the camera over, and they flipped it every 3 seconds. It was amazing. I was like, all right, so 3 seconds is the attention span of the average human these days. So when you're doing your watch repair videos that I typically don't even cut over on, other people have done videos that get way more hits because they're taking different angles and different whatever and flipping every 3 seconds and then processing the dialogue and all that one. So they're making movies effectively, right? So where I'm really not making a movie, I'm kind of making a show your faults and learn from it kind of videos, but they don't get the hits. I'm getting kind of maybe 300 to 400 hits on my video. Lots of nice compliments, by the way. Thank you very much. And I'd really love to get more hits. And as I get closer to retirement, I probably actually want to start making a little bit of money on these videos, right? On the vlog on the channel. And it just makes you feel a bit better. I'm dumping the baskets right now. So it just gives you a sense of pride when you get those, long hits. I've gotten hits on, like a lot of hits on some foolish stuff. I get hits on watch reviews. Like that Bull of a Marine Star watch I reviewed, I think I'm up to 35,000 hits on that thing. So, and that was just a watch review. There was nothing special. But when I do work on, like very detailed work on pocket watches, it's a limited audience, I think, and that's could be why. But wristwatch revival dude gets like 1 million hits, and I know that he's doing a different thing, and he's actually processing his videos. So he's clipping every 3 minutes to another scene and da-da-da-da. And maybe the YouTube algorithm looks at the quality of the video from that perspective, and then they say, okay, let's just publish this everywhere because we love the quality of this video. So so you guys can just send me a note and see what I can do differently maybe and help me along. I wouldn't mind that. I'm not a movie producer, video editor, or whatever, as I've told you a million times. By degree, I'm an engineer, electrical engineer. By trade, I'm management. There's that spring I worked on. I had to coil that in nicely to get it to conform. It looks a little rusty. This is my watch, though. So I might look. Am I making a speech or not? There's the barrel, which is now nice and clean, which is a nice thing to see because the barrel was in pretty sad shape. Take the plates out here, and let's just see if we can get this thing back together and running in decent shape. And again, I said this is watch that I received from a gentleman. I think it was Mr. Bauman, and I think, can I get this thing working again? And we shall see. And restack my stack here, and then put it back in the cage. And there we go. I'm not going to wear gloves for my own watch, by the way. Maybe I will. I don't know. It's a Sunday morning, and I'm tired. The family's got a cold. So I've got a cold. My wife has a cold now. And she never gets a cold, but she's a machine, so she's off driving the grandchildren to something. So with her cold. So I'm going to work on this watch now and get some stuff done. So later on, I'm going to be working on the Bride of Franken watch to see if I can get that thing together. And I forgot to put the little tiny boxes back in the movement holder here. So foolish. You know, it's stuck. Why is that stuck? Playing with things here. I'm trying to get this out. Uhtred. Yeah, by the way, guys, thanks for sending me the Viking pictures. And it's pretty cool. I see yourself as a Viking. So Chris Spinner and Sonny Morehouse both gave me their Viking pictures, and they look pretty scary, man. Off with your heads. I don't know how Vikings told the time, but they probably used the god of time, I suspect, just before they go to Valhalla, which is a vacation spot for Vikings, I think. Valhalla. All right, so this movement is done. It needs a bit of oiling here, and it needs to be assembled. So we're going to do a little tiny bit of oiling to start off with. Right. These old pocket watches, again, this is my watch. So I got to keep an eye on what I'm doing. I got to move some parts out of the way. That way I can get the camera a little closer. I'm forever trying to figure out my camera setup. Forever. I think my biggest problem today is clearing my throat. So how's this for a setup? So that's pretty darn close, and I've got it on a camera stand coming down. What I don't know is if this camera is if I'm gonna hit my head on the camera as I'm working. So I'm gonna try a little tiny bit of oiling here as I proceed with this and get this working properly. So I've got different size oilers. The yellow one is kind of the biggest size oiler, but I'm also using, and I'll say the red oil, right? Because this is the appropriate oil to be using at this time. I want this to be able to slip back and forth, and I'll use Rodico to kind of take away any extra oil that I might put on here, because you don't want too much oil on the watch, because the watch oil will travel, and some of this will get in the slot here as this turns, and some of it won't, which doesn't really matter. So, and it's kind of not necessary to oil the teeth, but it probably also doesn't hurt to put a little tiny bit. It'll transfer the oil from tooth to tooth. If you put a little tiny bit of it, it will move around and transfer the oil. So the problem with too much oil is that the static electricity caused by the watch as the balance is spinning draws dust into the movement, which is, I didn't know about that before. Somebody, I think, online basically advised me of that. So I remember doing that 7750 Valjour movement that I was bragging about a while back, and somebody also said that, just checking out the holes here, which oils to use here. Somebody also said that the oiling of the Valjour movement is oh so critical, that if you don't oil that thing properly with the right amount of oil, then you're going to get yourself in trouble, and trouble is not my middle name. So This is a pretty big size 18 movement, so you can use thicker oil because the parts are bigger. So there. I'm just looking around here to see what I got. I'm trying to get my nose not in your way as I do this, and we'll do a little investigation of how I want to reassemble this thing. Oils well that ends well. Is that what they say? And the thicker oil, the HP oil, can be used in the setting mechanisms. These springs here, if you lose one of these springs, you're going to have to buy another movement to fix it. That's why recently I haven't been taking these out on watches I've purchased, because I have this huge fear of losing one of these. And if I lose it, I'm screwed. Lose it and you're screwed. They should just say that. And having chatted with many watchmakers over the years who've lost parts on the carpet. So this is what this watch looks like reassembled. So I've got to pretty much do this again. So I can put the barrel in last, as you can see. But this is not a full plate, which is nice. It's got, actually it is a kind of a full plate, which is not nice. So, but I can throw those gears in like that. And I'm looking at the escapement and how that goes in. So those gears can be placed at. I'm going to put the mainspring in the barrel and then get the barrel back together again after. And it's a T-spring on the mainspring, which is nice. So also the order these go in is that the third wheel goes in first. Then the second wheel goes in next, I believe, over the third wheel. Then the fourth wheel goes in, where the pivot is the second hand, and then the escapement goes in. So it's kind of an odd way of putting it together, but that's the way it goes in. And if you look at the plates, the depth of the plates, you can see from the depth that you have to put this wheel in first, right? So, and this wheel goes in, and this wheel goes in with the pinion up, right? I'm going to put a little tiny bit of oil as well on the base of that, right here, just a tad. I need to put some oil down and then clean it up. This is what I'm going to have to do. There we go. So I put the oil down like that and get a piece of Rodico. And this is just so the oil doesn't wander around, right? So get a piece of Rodico, stretch it out, make a point from it, and just touch the tip there. There we go. And now I can put the wheel down with the pivot in place. There we go. Look how nicely that spins. The least friction, the better. So that's number 2 if the mainspring is 1, right? So the mainspring goes over here, I think. So I want to put in the center wheel second, and it goes center wheel down, I believe. Yeah, it's weird because if you look at the shaft of the center wheel, as it gets closer to the actual gear, it thickens. So that's, and I've oiled the center wheel, the hole already, so it just goes down like that, then it fits in and thickens. So I'm looking at the pinion here, or the pivots in here, and it looks like there's a little bit of corrosion there on the top. So I've taken the center wheel out, and I'm holding it in a vise right now, and I have my Bergeron 6240. So you got to look up Bergeron 6240, and this is a device used for getting rid of corrosion. So it's pretty cool, actually. And there it is, and you just set the depth, and this is the little fiberglass brush. So I think it's not recommended to breathe in while you're using this because you could inhale fiberglass. So but I would just very lightly around the edge of this. And just to remove a bit of what looks like corrosion here. So that's a little bit of corrosion there that I can remove using this fiberglass brush. So I don't want to do it over the movement, but this is kind of what I'm doing. To just remove a bit of corrosion, that's good enough there. And I'm going to get a super old piece of Rodico, because Rodico is man's best friend. And I can tap on this to collect any fiberglass that may have let loose. And also roll the pinion in the Rodico too. So you want to do that, and you want to roll the pinion in the Rodico. I can hold the gear like this here without a problem. But I should really have a glove on, but this is my watch. My watch, my watch. You want to make sure the pinions are absolutely clean of any gum or anything that could interfere with the teeth on the gear, causing it to slow down or not work properly. So I grab this here very lightly, and I just spill it out like that, and I don't have a problem. I think I'll put back my wife's sewing needle in here because she doesn't know I have it right now. And I can't remember what I was using. Oh, I was using it for loosening the cannon pinion. That video I made on how to loosen a cannon pinion. So I did it for that video alone. So now I can put this wheel back to its home. Its wheel home. Yeah, you know what? I see a little corrosion on this side too, if you have a look at that. So I'm going to brush away some of that corrosion as well and be right back. So once again, working on this wheel, I'm just trying to brush away the corrosion that's kind of on the edge here of this wheel. And the shaft looks good, but I probably will roll that in like 3000 grit sandpaper just to get rid of anything that might be not so good. I could also put it on a lathe and run on the lathe, but I don't think that's necessary. Just as long as I can roll it in a little bit of sandpaper, it should be fine. But you can almost see how this is good now. This watch is from 1886. So it's a super old watch. Yeah, it's looking good right now. So again, this is a fiberglass brush. It's a Bergeron 6240 brush, and it's used for this purpose. I've also used it on electronic movements. So let me just get my old piece of Rodico here and roll this a bit. You don't want any leftover corrosion here. And this is as good as rewashing it. There's no issue there. I don't think there is anyway. Normally the watches I work with are from like 1920. They're not from like 1860, but this is one that was given to me by Mr. Bauman and to work on. So I thought, you know what? I'll just see if I can get it working again. It looks pretty good there. Yeah, that corrosion is gone. It is gone, G-O-N-E, which is very N-I-C-E. Just put this back in place there. There we go. There's the two gears meshing. A beautiful thing, I'm telling you. A beautiful, beautiful thing. Somebody was saying, I think it was Sonny Morehouse, and you saw the video that we were working on. We had a little bit of an interview with Sonny, and through that interview, this is the fourth wheel here. Through that interview, realized how passionate he was about watches, and he is. This one here looks perfect, ever so perfect. I think this one goes in next. Is that right? This is what the mainspring would be spinning all these parts, and right now they're spinning freely, which is nice. And then I think the last thing here is the escapement, and got to look at which side the old feet go on for the escapement. Now I think that because of the escapement goes in here, the pinion's got to be down. Otherwise it won't work. Period. It's got to mesh, the pinion's got to mesh with this gear. So the pinion goes in right here. Like that. And that's meshing there. Now if I turn this a bit, the pinion or the escapement should move, but there we go. It doesn't matter what direction right now that I move it in. But you know what I'm going to do this time? While I have the pinion out here, I'm going to put the pinion, I said pinion. I meant escapement. So while I have the escapement out here, I'm going to put the escapement gel on. So this stuff is Mobius 9415, which is incredible. I've seen this stuff improve the amplitude of a watch by at least 20%, right? But just putting a little bit of that on the feet of the escapement. The feet of the escapement. It's no small feat to do that. Sorry. So I'm going to do it while I've got the watch bare naked here. And just dab it on a couple of the feet here. And this gel reduces the amount of friction that you see while the escapement feet touch the pallet fork. I'm still breathing while I'm doing this, but barely. So I just plunge that oiler into the oiler plunging removal thingamajobby doohickey mechanism to clean up the oil. So my next job, I need to do some pallet fork stuff, but my next job is really to put the mainspring back. So I'm going to use the same mainspring, and only because it's my watch. I'm going to use the same mainspring, the exact same mainspring. And I can see a little tiny bit of corrosion on the base of this barrel. So I'm going to attack this barrel with this brush. And I think this is only because it's an 1886 barrel. That's why there's leftovers. So, and you recall a while back I did a shellac test on the stuff that I tried to turn into liquid shellac. Well, it's gotten pretty hard from what I can see, right? But I'm not sure if it would be hard enough to be used for replacing the shellac for the. See this? It's cleaning this up nicely. You know, in retrospect, I probably should have done this before I put this in the cleaning machine, but the Rodico will pick it up, so I'm not super concerned, but this is cleaning up the inside of this barrel nicely. This brush is gold, Jerry. It's gold, I tell you. It's a pretty piss poor Kramer I'm doing, by the way. So I'm going to show you the before and after, because you saw the before, but when I hit the after, you're going to be impressed. And this will take away any friction between the barrel and the mainspring. I'm going to dump the results on this piece of white paper so you can see how much Rust-Oleum there was in there. This is a T mainspring, which I like. They're not as big a pain in the ass as the other mainsprings are. Now there's a gentleman who watches my video who's gotten a hold of me to fix his Hamilton watch, but it's really not fixing his watch. It's a running Hamilton with an amplitude of 180, which means it's got at least a 360-degree spin on it. Look at all the crap that was in that barrel. So if you see the crap, remove it. So I'm going to look at the barrel walls now and do a little work on the walls here. And then I'm going to Rodico the hell out of it, which will pick things up even better than the cleaning machine would. Because this did go through the cleaning machine. And the cleaning machine just isn't going to remove the rust, because this is just corrosion. So the gentleman asked me to do work on his watch. He's probably listening right now. And I actually, if you lived up here in Canada, I'd probably do the work. But to ship the watch to me that's pretty much running, to get it running within a couple seconds a day, there's the chances of getting it running within a couple seconds a day to do a better job than the last guy did. Maybe I could do that, right? But if I can't, then give the watch back. And he goes, well, you didn't do anything. It's not running as well as it was, or something like that, right? Then I've got a situation where I've got a customer who's not happy because he wanted me to get this watch running to spec. And these old watches have a hard time running to spec because they are old watches. Even if it's 50 years old, an old Hamilton 23 jewel railroad watch, to get that back up to spec, it's not really something I'm interested in. I'd rather fix something that's broken. That's why they use the word fix. Or the watch repair is repairing, not fine-tuning. So I apologize. I'll write this gentleman back, but I am not interested in getting a watch that's already running really well. Running weller. So you gotta roll this mainspring barrel in the Rodico. So little discussion on gloves versus no gloves for repairing pocket watches. I've seen movies from the past, and I'm telling you, movies from the past where they're repairing and making watches and no one had one glove on. So just saying, okay? So I don't know if the oils from your fingers significantly impact the pocket watch. I know that you can leave fingerprints on the case specifically, but is that a bad thing? Because now I've got the fingerprint of some dude from 100 years ago, and I can do a CSI on this to see if he's the guy that took out JFK. Probably not, but I do have the fingerprint. I don't think it was a watchmaker that did that, right? But who knows? It might have been. Chatty McChatty Pants here. Just chatting away. As I remove. This barrel has tons of corrosion on it. I'm not sure why the rest of the watch didn't, but the barrel did. But this little brush does miracles. It's a brush from heaven. The miracle brush, that's what they should call it, not the Binford 4000 miracle brush. The brush that changed the world. Look at that. Just fantastic. A little tiny bit of corrosion on the edge here. That's where the mainspring stuck out. Right, so I can get rid of that, not a problem. And all this ends up underneath the plate, so there's no worry about consistency and what it looks like. You just want to get rid of any corrosion that might be part of this. So I'm going to clean this up and get that barrel ready. And I'm using watch paper here, but I still have to be very careful because all this rust dust will jump out and end up on my mat. So I just fold it over like that, and then I'm going to turn it into a blob. And I have a little jar on the side there where I throw crap from my watchmaking. And so now I've got these things here are in good shape. So now the other thing is, can I get rust or stuff off of the mainspring here, and reuse that mainspring? That's a tricky thing to do. So so I'm going to attack this with my brush. So just as an example here, you see that little slice of corrosion there on the mainspring? Let's just do something with that in like 2 seconds. Moving the parts out of the way so they don't get dust on them. Like that. I just want to show you that it's possible then to, because the rust didn't seem to go through the mainspring, it just sort of sitting on the top. Like this stuff right there. See that right there? And this fiberglass brush just does such a great job. See, now look at it. It's like new. It's amazing. Of course, the other side's got crap on it too, right? I don't think in 1886 they were able to fix this problem. Maybe they were, and I'm full of crap. But I'm going to vacuum my mat now. The rest of the mainspring has got only some spots that I've got leftovers. And what I'm going to do again with the mainspring here is I'm going to see the spots. It's like where the barrel was touching the mainspring or something. But what I'm going to do with the mainspring here is rub that down with a towel after, with some oil on it, to just make sure it's well lubricated. I'm just rotating it around to see if there's any more terrible spots here, but I'll end up cleaning that up. It's not like the barrel had a ton of rust on it, so this is just minor. I do have to go on the inside of the mainspring as well and have a look at that, and then work on that for a while. So that's kind of it, and I'll be back with a nice mainspring. Alright, so I've brought upstairs some 2000 grit sandpaper. So that should work. And guess what? It's waterproof. How lucky am I? So I don't need this giant piece of sandpaper. I just need a slice of it so I can squeeze the mainspring leaves, on that sandpaper. So the scissors I got, by the way, are, I think they're from France. But I got them at a local, that place I went to I think they have it online, but it's just outside the city of Ottawa, probably about a 30-minute drive outside of Ottawa. And it's called Cordon Tools. C-O-R-D-O-N, I think, Cordon Tools, and they sell online, and they've got a lot of vintage tools, and they've got new tools as well. But oh my God, if you're like me and you like tools, you show up there and you don't leave. So my wife won't go with me anymore to Cordon Tools because I can't leave. So I'm just folding the mainspring over here. You see there's still a little bit of corrosion on the inside, as you can see. So I'm going to try to get to that place in the mainspring to get rid of some of that corrosion. So I'm just doing this. This is an old mainspring. When I get near the end here, it's could be tricky. And this is in lieu of putting a brand new one in, because again, it's my watch. It's not the customer's watch. And I just want to get it running again. I'm not going to walk around with this watch and wear it and see if it keeps good time. I just want to get it going again. And it's from 1886, which is a few years before I was born, I think. I'm going to want it to say. And we'll see if this mainspring looks a lot better after I've gone through this sandpaper. I don't want to snap it, so when I get to the end here, I got to be very careful that I don't overdo the sanding part. Take that out, and then you want to make sure that the mainspring doesn't tangle into itself either. So have a look at that. Pretty damn good, I'd say. Look at that, not too shabby. It's bowling a little bit, but not too much. So that turned out spectacular. So that's a little bit of, yeah, that's really nice. There's a little tiny bit on the inside right there I'd love to get at. So can I get at that? I may have to cut this paper even finer. So if I cut the paper down to something like this, even finer than eggs from a diner. Oh my, oh me, oh my. That's my David Letterman impression. So I'm looking inside here to see where that corrosion was. It's right there. So I'll get that piece of paper in here, like this, and then if I get my fingers on the edge and just rub that piece of paper on that corrosion, I may have solved my problem. $3,000, 2,000 grit. I didn't need 3,000 grit. I thought I might, but I didn't. There's still some on there, so how am I going to grab that properly? What do you think? How do I do that? Just like this, maybe? I could probably use some kind of a rounded tool in there. But let me just round this edge of this stuff off just a bit more, because there's just one little tiny piece of corrosion in there I'm trying to hit at, and it is gone. I think it's gone. There's a piece right there that I want to get rid of, and it is very small. It's the last piece of corrosion in this whole friggin' spring. Not sure how much a difference it makes, but I do want to get rid of it. So I think I'm going to use my brush to get rid of that piece, because it's just awkward where it is, right? If I can get inside there with my brush. Where the heck is it? Oh, there it is. See if you can see that right there. That little piece right there. You can pretty much see that, right? I need to cut my fingernails as well. Yeah, there we go. The brush is getting rid of it. It's going right into my lungs. Before I clean it off, I'll show you. There's a little dot there, but it's gone. So that's done. And I'm just going to get in here with the Rodico a bit so I can get rid of any leftovers. But now I got to rub it down. Rub it down, Jerry. Now I got an old cloth here I'm going to use, but I might grab a different one here. Let me grab a different one. Just going to grab a big old cloth I have and just rub the spring down. And then I'm going to put some oil on it and then just allow that oil to spread along the spring. Alright, that's it. That's the mainspring. Now someone told me that if the mainspring is bigger than the movement, then it's good. And it's a little bit bigger, but this is an 8, but I spread it out a bit. And when I took it out, it was kind of the same size as the movement, but it's an 1886 mainspring likely, unless it was changed a few times. I don't know. So now I could wind this in with my mainspring winder, but I'm going to put it in by hand, and then I'm going to put some oil on it after. Right, it's in pretty good shape right now. And again, I want to look at the photo I have to make sure that the mainspring is going in the right direction. There's the photo. Now you see how cruddy and crappy that was? If you look at the edges here, all the rust and stuff like that. So, and over here, all that corrosion. So that's all gone. It's gone, I tell you. So the arbor still needs a little bit of work too, because that rust passed on to the mainspring arbor. You look at that, see there's a little corrosion, but my brush can clean that up without a problem. But now I'm going to wind this in by hand. Now they used to do that back in the day. I have a mainspring winder. So this goes into the barrel, and it goes in, as you can see, it goes in like that. So that's going counterclockwise right into the barrel, and it's hooking on the arbor. And if you look, you should look at the arbor too to make sure that you're not totally screwing this up. And if I look at the arbor would go in here. Let me look closer here. I think the arbor goes in. The arbor would have to go in the other way, like that, in order to catch that spring. No, it actually goes in this way. Goes in this way to catch the spring. Yeah. So the arbor sits in there like that. Fell right through. Now, to put this spring in by hand, you cannot, I don't know anybody that can do it with gloves on. So I can't do that with gloves on. I can only do it without gloves on. But I'm telling you, it's not easy. It's not easy. I'm looking at the spring again. I'm looking at this one more time to make sure I don't wind this bugger in, and then it's the wrong way. So looking at the spring one more time, one more spring look, and just to make sure it's going in the right way. So it's like that. So it is like that. So that's it. Now you're probably going to be mad at me because I'm not using my mainspring winder. I could use the mainspring winder and then try to pluck it in like that. I'm not sure if my super expensive mainspring winder would wind that in. I think it's too big, but my pocket watch mainspring winder would certainly do it. But I've got a hole here. See the hole there? So I can put that in like this into the hole like that, and then push like this on the outside. And you just have to make sure it stays in that hole when you go around the first time. Otherwise, your mainspring is not going to stay in place. It's a bit tricky to do this, and I don't do it a lot, but I do have to cut my thumbnail. It's pretty disgustingly long. But I do it like this. I'm kind of doing it on photo here. But see, it's already slipped out from where the hole is. It's pretty hard because there's usually a catch there. And you kind of got to push down while you're doing it, and then do that for the first turn. And then hope nothing moves as you move it around. And I can see it moving from the hole right now. And make your first turn. And then you're doing this to walk it right through. But again, I think the mainspring is not over the hole anymore. So now I've got a problem. So now if I rotate it, I could probably put it in, but I can see it's not connected with the hole here, so it's probably not going to work like that. So I got to take it back out again and try again. So I'm going to work on that and get right back. If I can't do it by hand, I'm going to actually take my mainspring winder out and try that. Alright, I'm having a problem getting this T lined up with the hole, so I'm going to take out my mainspring winder and try that. So there's the mainspring winder here, And I'm going to try using this vise I have that I got from Cardin Tools, this thing here, because it might be just quicker just to squeeze it in like that and use the vise, so than it would doing it any other way. So I have to make sure the barrel is correct, the barrel size is correct. So there's a number of barrels there that you have a choice of, and there's the mainspring size, right? So it's pretty big. The barrel I currently have in there right now is, I think, too loose, right? So you want to get a bigger barrel, and everything is kind of tightened down, so you just loosen that like that, and I think this should come out without a problem. Yeah, there it is there. And then put this barrel back to where its home was, which may or may not be right there. Get the bigger barrel out and then put that in, and it kind of looks like that. Now the ring I have here on the barrel, I've already tightened that down a long time ago. It's got a screw on it. And this is a vintage mainspring winder, so it goes kind of back like that. But you put the barrel in like this, and then I tighten it down below. I could probably do a bit of maintenance on this winder too. Then I'm just going to get this. One of these is correct. One of these things is not like the other. So I want to probably get the biggest one that I have, and I'm not sure if that was the biggest one. This one here. So just do a face-to-face on this, and yeah, I think it is the biggest one. Get this one here, and yeah, and that is pretty much the same size as the other one, so no advantage. So I can put this aside for a second while I do this. I'll clamp this into my holder here, and I know I'm going to do it. I like winding it this way, so it's a preference, okay? So this only goes down that far, so is that going to be able to squeeze enough of it to allow me to use the mainspring winder without it flying off on me? It seems to be pretty steady. So there we go. That's not bad. Now I'm going to angle my camera up a bit so you might see I'll just let you see my chin. How's that? So now this mainspring goes in the barrel. The mainspring goes in the barrel like that. So you got to kind of do this because it's going to feed in that way, which means the mainspring goes in here like this. So that's the way it gets wound in. And so if I'm looking at winding this in, I'm going to be winding it in like this and then catching it, right? So if I wind it in, I'm doing that to wind it in. And you just put your fingers along the side so it doesn't snap out on you. And when I get near the end, I kind of stop, and I'll show you why. So these guys that do work on clocks, man, I don't know how they managed to put up with it. But then you back it off a bit because the mainspring will wind itself in once you've tightened it, and you just push the end of it a bit to give it a hand. There we go. So that's about as deep as I want to bring it in. Now I'm going to back it off a bit, like that. And, and now I need to push this so that it pushes the mainspring into the movement, right? So, or into the barrel. But I can't do that with the mainspring winder in place, because if I do that, it's just going to push the end in, because it looks like this right now. And you'd put the barrel over like that. So the barrel with the spring needs to fit over like that. So that's why this bigger one is perfect, because now I can align this T-junction up with the hole in the barrel, the little hole in the side there, and then it's perfect, right? Now I could make a whole video on how to do this, but we're not going to do that today. So I want to get that out now, so I can back it out or push it, one or the other. So if I go backwards with this like that, then it comes out, which is perfect, right? So now it's out, and this has to be pretty tight down here. And now the next thing to do is to line the mainspring up. I got to kind of look at it, but I want to line the mainspring up so that it's lined up. The T on the mainspring is lined up with the hole. So I got to get in a little bit close here to do that properly and not F it up. I think I can rotate it as well once I get it in. Come on, get in there. Don't be a pain in the butt. The Butinsky. It's being a little bit of a pain here right now. There we go. And then I got to look in the end to make sure that that mainspring, the T is sticking out. So, and I can't really see it right now. So it's not sticking out right now. So I got to take it off again and then line it up and try again. You can line it up from the side as well. You can just look at it from the side, look at where the T is on the side, and then look at where the hole is. And now the hole is about a little bit too high. And that's kind of right there. And then push it in and squeeze it a little bit, right? And I'm not pushing the back yet. I'm just pushing it from the front. And like that. And I'm trying to make sure that that hook gets in the barrel. And if I miss it, like all watchmaking, you start again. That might be it. And now I got to push here to push the spring into the barrel. So I push the back end here, and this pushes the spring into the barrel like that. Now the spring is in the barrel. Now did the T hit the hole? Because if it didn't, I got to take the whole friggin' thing out again. So I got to look at this really carefully to see if the T is actually in the hole. And it is. Yeah, I've had success here. Yeah. So the T is in the hole. It's really hard to see, by the way. So when you look at the hole here and you look for the T, there you can sort of see it there, right? It's kind of there. Sometimes what I'll do too, and let me just take this apart here for a second, get this out of the way. Let's see, loosey, lefty, righty, tighty, fighty. Isn't that how it works? And I grab a stake. Let me just move this camera down a bit here so we can do some close-up work here. And I will tap that T-junction into the hole so I'm not out completely. And I want to be on the edge like that and just tap it on the edge with my hammer. And it won't go all the way through the back, so you don't have to worry about it actually hitting the back of this. So I grab my hammer, it's hammer time, and just give it a tap, because you don't want it to be too high on this side, and you do want it to get into that hole. So just grab it like that, put the stake kind of on the edge right there, and you don't want the stake to hit the actual barrel material as you do this, right? So you just want to be right on the edge like that, and just give it a small tap like that. And now I'll look at that again, and it did go down, and there is the stud sticking through the hole. So I'm going to give you a close-up of that. So there you go. There's the close-up. Now you can really see that T stud sticking through the hole. So without that tap, and you put the barrel cap on, then, and this is not in the hole, then the barrel cap will be riding up high. And you can tell whether you've got an issue on this barrel, right? If you look at it here at an angle, if this here is lower than the lip here, the barrel lip, then you're good. Then it's down far enough to be able to be down far enough for you to be able to put the lid on the barrel and for it to be secure. So now I got to do some work on the arbor, clean up a little bit of rust on the arbor. I will oil the inside of this thing, and then we'll put the whole barrel back together again. Okay, here I took the needle out, my wife's needle out of this thingamajobby doohickey, and I've grabbed the arbor here, and I can see some rust and stuff right on the edge. And you see that? Let's see if we can clean that up a bit. And on the end. So you don't want that to be on there, because it's going to cause problems. Now with that little hammer tapping technique I showed you a few seconds ago, that is not in any books. So that is effectively experience. So if I look at this and just do a little bit of work on this. This should clean off the corrosion. I'm not wearing a mask right now because there's so I don't believe I'm creating a lot of dust. So, but I'm also not breathing in heavily. So you should probably put a mask on when you're doing this stuff. Then you got the guys that work on the insulation and walls in the old days for 30 years that get lung infection and stuff, but they spend every day doing that, and this crap gets in your lungs and you get big problems. I'm breathing out and not even breathing in. Hold my breath. There we go. Another thing you can do, if the hook on the arbor is not hooky enough, you can get in there with a small file because it's at an angle, right? And you can give it a better angle to hook onto the mainspring. This one looks good, but you can do that. So that's another thing you could do if your arbor's not hooking on enough. And luckily for me, I've got this 2000 grit sandpaper available. This stuff is great. It's not going to cause an issue with the stainless steel here. It actually kind of makes it look better. It polishes it up. So I'm just going to rub this a little bit on this 2000 grit sandpaper that I have. And I'll flip this arbor around and have a look at it. Flip around the arbor, buddy. Flip around the arbor, it's going down tonight. Flip around the arbor, 'cause it's going down tonight. What a shitty song I'm singing. Oh my God, what am I doing? So I grab it from the other side now. You got to get some of these pin vices here, and otherwise if you don't have a pin vise, as far as I'm concerned, you're a loser. I'm just doing the head of this right here because this is the head that goes into the ratchet wheel that's on the base of this thing. So, and once again, I'm going to use my 2000 grit sandpaper here and just roll this a bit. Now this is because it's an 1886 watch movement. Oh my God. And I think I made a video a while back about what happened in 1886. So, I think in 1886 I said the first automobile was assembled in Germany in 1886. Amazing. The other thing is that Herbert Hoover, I think, dedicated the Statue of Liberty, named it or something, right? He did something. Good old Herbie Hoover. So there is the mainspring, and again I'm going to use I'll tell you what type oil it is. So the oil is HP 1300 oil. That's what I use. It's sort of the second down from the HP 9010. And in here I'm just going to put some oil on the top here like that. And these are old mainsprings here, so they're not like the new ones. The new ones don't need to be oiled. But these ones here, this will help with the friction that's being caused by the mainspring rubbing against itself. And there we go. And the other thing I'm going to do here is put a little tiny bit of oil on the inside of where the hole is, where the arbor spins around. I don't need a lot because it'll again transfer itself around. Like that. And now I'm going to, what am I going to do next? I keep telling you what I'm going to do, right? Hopefully that's useful. So there's that mainspring now. So now I got to make sure I put my wife's needle back into this here. So Now, if you want me to spend more time video editing these videos, let me know. Or do you want me to keep being real? So here, I'm not saying the other guys aren't real, by the way, because I think, first of all, I Shoot Watches Gentleman does fantastic video editing. I think this is what he does for a living, and so he does a great job. I think Mike, who fixes watches too, so a shout out to Mike. So he does a fantastic job as well. And Sonny Morehouse doesn't make videos, but I'm trying to convince him to go down that route, because he do a good job. And Chris Spinner does friggin' phenomenal videos. I saw one of his videos the other day, and I was like, I feel like an amateur now. And he says he's learned a lot from me, but I don't believe him. So here, I've got the mainspring here, and I don't know if that's going to be tight enough around this arbor. So, and I believe it goes in like that, but I'm going to check the angle of the hook here. So the hook angle is the other way. So then that means it goes in like this. And if it goes in like this, like that, do I need to squeeze the mainspring in to get this in the right direction? So let me just put it over a hole, right? Hopefully you're watching this and I'm not blocking your view with my nice full of no hair head. And I'm just going to shove it down like that, and then I'm rotating it now to see if it's going to hook into the mainspring here. So it does. So that's hooked in. So another thing you can do to test this, and I forgot, I got to take the needle off again. Damn it! I got to stop. I'm just going to give this needle back to my wife and stop farting around here. So the other thing you can do is open this up, and you can grab the arbor. You got to be very careful doing it though, because you'll lose it on the other side. You can grab it this way and then tighten this pin vise on this side, and then rotate it. Now you see how I'm rotating it, and it's actually hooking the mainspring, right? So that's a good thing. It's not hooking it really hard, so I might want to bend this mainspring in just a tad to give it a little bit more friction, right? So when I put this together, I don't have a problem. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to try to take this out. If this thing doesn't want to come out, there we go. I'm going to take this out. Come on. See how these fingernails, how handy these fingernails are? Come on, I want to remove the mainspring here, or the arbor. And just get this out of the way and dump the arbor. Dump the arbor. So the arbor is dumped. And now what I want to do is just squeeze that in just a bit, right? Now the tool you use, put all my crap away here. The tool you use for squeezing in the arbor is the tool you're looking at right now. Now you can get those tools online, but so you've got a rounded part and you've got the curved part of the tool. And if this works perfectly, when I go in here and squeeze down, it should bend the mainspring just a tad, right? And you don't want to bend it too much. So you kind of want to just go in here, and I just think I bent it too much. I think that's good enough. And you just bend it and it bends in. Now, I've done this before. I've snapped off the end of the mainspring before by doing this. So if you're doing that with that tool, you got to be so careful that it doesn't overbend the tip of that mainspring, because the material, if you look at this mainspring again, there's not much material on the top and the bottom of this mainspring, and it doesn't like to be bent. So you just got to make sure that you don't overbend that mainspring, because you get in big trouble if you do that. Big trouble. The mainspring cops will come and see you. So I'm going to lift this up and install this by hand. So when I'm installing this by hand, I actually have to have a screwdriver like this and put it in the edge where the spring is, and just move it to get that spring over the arbor. And you got to get a screwdriver that's not too big and not too small. So a yellow probably would do to do this. And a bit nervous doing it in front of everybody because I did squeeze that and probably squeezed it a bit too much. And I can't, it's kind of hard to unsqueeze. So you want to just kind of get your screwdriver in like this and then work that arbor inside like that. And you got to get the lip over the top like this. And then the arbor is going to fit into the hole. It's kind of a funky job to do. So, and if you're lucky, everything kind of comes out and fits in. So that's what I'm doing now. Okay, so that snapped over the thing. So now I've got it like this, like that. Now I'd like to be able to just lower it and then turn it. So there it is there. And now when I turn that counterclockwise. I can also use a screwdriver to kind of wedge it over until it snaps into place. And so I'm putting it in the vise again, and I'm just I got to tighten this a bit. So I got to let go of it, and now it'll turn inside there, as you can see. But now I want to have a screwdriver. I'm being really, really delicate. I'm describing way too much for you guys. But I want to have a screwdriver to lift this up out of the way a bit, just a bit, to get the stud that's part of the arbor in and out of the way, right? So come on, there we go, there it is. And now when I turn this, let me see if I can push this down a bit here, because it's got to be down to catch the spring, the mainspring. And I think I got it. I think I can. So it looks like it's bent too far up that way. So I'm going to play with this bend here and maybe squeeze it on the edge there to squeeze it down a bit. So anyway, that's how you do it. That's the trick. And using this tool, but using it very carefully, because I even squeezed it a bit too much. It went like that and it bent it too much. But I've done this before, and not while I'm talking. So it looks like it's catching it nicely now. So that should work. Should work. Given all the things in life, that should work. Just loosen that up a bit and take it out. And there you go. And there it is. So it's squeezing that a bit better than it was before, which is nice. So there's not a lot of room. And now you got to put the cap on. And to put the cap on, you should actually have the hole in your bench block is like that, so it just sits in. And then you got to grab the cap, and you're just pushing the cap straight down. So now that cap on the inside is touching the arbor on the other side. So it's a wise thing to put a little bit of that HP 1300 right on this part here. Is the part that's touching the cap. So you put, again, the least amount of friction possible is what you're looking for, right? So you got to make sure there's a little bit of oil here. It's not going to kill anything, so that's not a problem putting the oil in there. And again, the reason the oil actually collects the dust that gets into the watch, and the dust gets into the watch because of static electricity. Oh my God, you're kidding. No, I'm not. So there's a crack right here. You see this here, that little crack right there, right there. I'm going to close up on that, right? That little crack where I cleaned the rust off, that lines up with the little tiny T of the mainspring. So where's that T? It's T time. It's T time. Lines up like that. The T of the mainspring, and then the arbor is going to fit in there nicely. So trying to make sure all this lines up perfectly, right? Like that. And then you just push it down. You push it down, and then you push it down. You use your tweezers and you push it some more. So I do this holding it, right? So, and then I'm going to roll the whole thing, the whole darn thing. I'm going to roll in Rodico to get rid of any fingerprints and crap. So there we go. So that's the edge of it there that I'm pushing down first. So that gets the T in there nicely. And then you just go around the circle until it's in. You can hear it snap in. Eh? It's kind of cool. So, and that has to be absolutely flat. So when I look at this, and I'll give you a close-up, you can see the T is in. It's tea time. So the T is in. See that T by my fingernail there? The one I should have cut? No, it's the guitar fingernail. So that T is in place to hold that mainspring around. And then you take your tweezers like this, open them up a bit, like that, and then squeeze down around the cap, just to make sure the cap is completely down. And this works perfectly, and it won't destroy your teeth on the gears on your mainspring or anything. So, and I can do this much faster if I'm not chatting away like Chatty Sally or whatever you want to call me. So there we go. That's pretty much down and dusted. There we go. And that's it there. So now I'm going to roll this, sweep it and roll it in Rodico, and guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a glove on. I know. You're amazed. I think you're amazed that I'm going to put a glove on. I gotta clean my throat. I still have that cold. It's been 4 weeks. Oh my God. I got the glove on, folks. I got my glove and I got my Rodico. So there we got the glove on. And I'm just going to sweep the front here, just in case I got any fingerprints on there, and the Rodico will take that off. I use this on the face of the watch as well, and it just does such a great job. And then I'm going to roll the gears, just to make sure there's nothing on there that could, see the rolling gears marks? Just to make sure there's nothing in the gear teeth that are going to prevent it from moving smoothly. And then I'm going to just go close here and around this here. Now, as you recall, I oiled this, which is what needed to happen when I put the cap on. I oiled this on the inside when I had the barrel like that, and I oiled this to make sure everything was good, and there's still a bit of oil on there. So that's that. That is the barrel, ladies and gentlemen. The barrel is done. And now I can just throw that barrel down and we're good as gold. I think the barrel goes right in here. And it lines up with the square part on the other side. This is the tricky part too. So if you look at the square part here, there better be a square part. There it is there. Look at the square part and look at the angles. Look through the hole right there, and look at the angles and try to get as close as possible to that angle. If it's not absolutely perfect, you can use your bench key, and that will turn things around to line them up properly. So there we go. It's down, and I actually think it just fell in perfectly. I'll have to turn that around and have a look, or use a mirror. But anyway, that's that. And you know what? The majority of the watch is together now, and I've done such an explanatory job on this particular job that I'm going to stop the video now so you don't have a 5-hour video, and I'll start it again and do the other half. So this will be part 1, and there's going to be a part 2, ladies and germs. So I'm going to turn on my front camera, see how low I am. Front camera on. Let me just sit up for a second, and I won't edit this out. All my motion and moves and groaning and noise and all that crap. So there we go. Glove. See, I'm like Michael Jackson, except one of my gloves is not white. So there we go. So that's it. So hope you've learned a few things about putting the spring in the barrel and all that stuff. I did use a winder at the end of the day because it was almost impossible for me to grab that and put it around. If you've got the mainspring that's got a double leaf hanging over the other way, mainspring's against the wall, and then there's another leaf that goes this way, you can prepare one of those, by the way, if they snap. But that leaf there is easy to put in, because if you miss the hook on the barrel, it just slides around and catches it next time. So you're never going to miss the hook. The T's are a little trickier to do because you got to have them in those holes, and by hand it's a bit tricky. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video in its entirety. I got a nice close-up angle with the camera today. which is nice. And I'm going to continue working on the watch, and I'm going to tape that as well. I'll have this as part 1, and the next part will be part 2. I got my hoodie on today. Got a cold. It's lasted 4 friggin' weeks. Anyway, and shout out to all the guys out there that do watchmaking and watch work and stuff. It's kind of fun. So, and this is the tool you need to get to squeeze that mainspring. But my message to you that I've learned over the years, when you're trying to squeeze the very end of that mainspring, it just doesn't take much to just bend it so that it breaks. So don't do that. I've done that before by accident. Or as I used to say, my brother used to say, by an accident. And you want to be very careful when you're squeezing that. Just squeeze it just a little bit. It's kind of, you get the feel for it after a while. Maybe take an old mainspring actually, and take the tip and move and work that, and just get the feel for it before you go to your own watch and start working that. So there's not much left to do on this watch other than plate it in the top and then all the rest of it. So, and I'm going to do that next. But I'm going to turn this off, and I've got a couple of customer watches I need to work on that I've worked on already. One of them I just need to pack the basket and put it downstairs and clean it, and then I've got to take the Bride of Franken watch, and she needs the pallet fork. I think she's the one. Yeah, she needs the pallet fork slightly adjusted. No, she needs the impulse jewel. The impulse jewel put in place. I was waiting for that denatured alcohol so I could use that technique. So hopefully the owner of the Bride of Franken watch can wait a little bit longer while this denatured alcohol arrives, and I make myself a mixture. If it doesn't come in, I'm just going to do my old technique of doing it, and we'll put it together that way. So that's it. Thanks for watching my channel. Hope you enjoy this Sunday video. I'm making way too many videos, folks.